automatically. Let's see what it means. If I place my cursor on this same word somewhere else in my transcript, Eclipse will offer to automatically replace it for me and save me some typing. Let's see it in action. I'll place my cursor here and press Hyperkey N. There's the type over suggestion. It may look a bit distracting, but it could certainly save me some typing.
What's his name? Steve. That's what we were doing. You know, whenever you were doing behaviors and it came up 3 times, that's what you were doing. Every time that you went in to go and replace it again, it remembers that you replaced behaviors with behaviors. So if you were going to replace it with something else, then it always remembers that you came back. Let me play that again. Listen to what it's telling you.
Let's see it in action. I'll place my cursor here and press Hyperkey N. There's the word somewhere else in my transcript. Eclipse will offer to automatically...
This is where it's talking about type over tracking, where you kind of, you know, maybe do 2 words the same. So if you wanted to do, not even that they were the same, but if you were doing, if you type first and it's always going to be second, then you go in and replace it, it remembers that you replaced it. So every time you go to first and you go to replace it with something else, it's going to think that you meant to put second in there because you put second the first time you replaced it. So it thinks that every time you want to replace it, that you're going to replace it with that.
When you
Does that
come
make
to
sense?
word.
Yeah. When you come to the word that you replaced. Does that make sense? Okay.
replace it for me and save me some typing. Let's see it in action. I'll place my cursor here and press Hyperkey N. There's the type over suggestion. It may look a bit distracting, but it could certainly save me some typing. To accept the suggestion, just press the Enter key. Otherwise, start typing. There's no need to press extra keys like Escape or Backspace just to get rid of the type over suggestion. Also, keep in mind that if you type in a new word and press the space bar, that's not considered a type over that needs to be tracked. One final note. Type over tracking is a typing feature. It's not a global replacement or a dictionary entry. Normally, the system is constantly tracking your type overs, but you can lock entries in your type over tracking table, which is symbolized by an exclamation point. Here I've added these two lines because my steno for doesn't and accident is almost identical. I don't want to create a lock entries in your type over tracking table, which is symbolized by an exclamation point. Here I've added these two lines because my steno for doesn't and accident is almost identical. I don't want to create a conflict entry in my dictionary, but I do want a fast way to insert the replacement text from time to time.
Does that make sense?
So if you do that and it remembers that you replaced that one word, how would you undo it?
You don't need to.
You don't need to?
No, because it's not going to do anything unless you put your cursor on there and push in to insert. Then it's going to put the word there. But it doesn't really matter because say you wanted to put third there this time where you had first. Well, second's going to come up. And it's going to come up usually like in a different color. Like, hey, did you mean to write second? Because you put first. Last time you replaced it with second. No, this time I want to put third. So you just start typing and it types second away, leaves first. You type third, enter, puts you back into hyperkeys, enter again, chops off the word. Okay? So really all it does is remember the last command that you did. It just remembers what you're doing. So the more you use it, the more it remembers what you're doing. So it just remembered that the last time you replaced it with second, and do you want to do it with second again? No, I want to do it with third. Okay, then type in third. Chop it off, good to go. Make sense?
If you're a mouse lover, you'll appreciate the many icons that are built into Total Eclipse. So let's see how to arrange the toolbars to meet your needs. Toolbars to meet your needs. You can pull down the window menu to customize your toolbars. You can select large icons or small icons, but we'll show you how to do this in a separate visualizer. For now, let's open the dialog that lets you toggle on or off the various elements of your display. The speed key for this dialog is Shift-Control F3. Here you'll find checkboxes to turn on the various toolbars of your system, and there's also a fast way to turn off all the toolbars if you want to make a little extra space. The speed key for turn off all toolbars is Shift-Control F2. The View Toggles dialog is also where you control the appearance of the info bar. This is the display column at the left edge of the Eclipse screen. Here is where Automagic choices appear most typically. So as you move your cursor from word to word, Eclipse offers you the most likely editing choices. You can, however, also display Automagic choices in a small pop-up window. We'll show that in a separate visualizer. Also, the visualizer that is specifically about the info bar will show you how there you can see translation statistics in real time, as well as an audio indicator and auto-brief suggestions to make it easier to write.
Make sense? You don't want to have too many toolbar things up there. One, you shouldn't be using that many, because you should be able to do a lot of your stuff in hyperkeys. So you shouldn't even need that many. One, because you shouldn't be using your mouse that much. And then two, right? And two, you still have to use it. You still have to use the mouse. You still have to move around. So, it's not that bad. But you don't want, 6 or 7 toolbar things because you don't need that many. What they're doing is just suggestions of how you can do the same things by using the hyperkeys. Okay? Does that make sense? So you don't need that. All it's doing is just taking up unnecessary space.
So that's an interactive visualizer. It's interactive, the visualizer. We can go in there and, or is it your turn and we start doing it?
Yeah, it has little exercises for you.
Okay.
So, you can go into a job that you've already done that doesn't really matter and mess with it in there, or you can kind of mess with it in here a little bit. It's very limited, little exercises after the visualizers, So if you want to do those, you can. And here it's just telling you about some of the conflicts. So that was just kind of explaining, kind of the stuff that okay, what they're explaining here is like, if your notes are, too big, put your, cursor inside of your notes, right click, and it allows you to kind of make them smaller or larger. Okay? Press enter, moves it over, makes it smaller. You want it bigger, it's right click. Okay? going to do it for that job. You know, if you want to do it in your settings, then you have to go to Alt-U in your settings and then do it. You know, there's a way to do it, but you want to be really careful with doing it because, you know, if you're in a job, you know, you want to change something, you go to Alt-U. You want to go in the document, you know, change the main font or change the size of the font. You know, it allows you to do it. Well, if you want to change it and you want to make it to your master, this is how you do it with the copy button. Be real careful when you do that because once you do, it changes it to your master. So any of the settings that you changed changes it to your master. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
But if you want to do it from your master into that current document, you know, say for some reason it got changed up and you want, you messed with some of the settings in that document and you don't know how to get back to it, that's how you do it. Go to your master, wherever the arrows are, that's where it's going to copy to. Wherever the arrows, you know, are big, that's where it's copying from. So what I mean big is like the open arrow there, the arrow's coming this way, it's copying to the current document. You put it here, the arrows turn, and now they're going to the master document. So whatever's in that document, it's going to transfer all those settings to your master document. So you want to be really careful, you know, when you do that to make sure that that's what you want to do. And it only allows you to do it, you know, in certain user settings, not in all of them. See how it's not in all of them? But that's how you do it. Okay, this is actually kind of neat. You're in HyperKeys, and this is actually going to come later. I'm just going to kind of show you just because it's going over it in this lesson. It's going to kind of go more in depth in one of the other lessons. But you know, if you're in here, you push E, it takes you to the next form field, and it's a fill in the blank. So what these are block files. They're little files that you can fill in information. So you want to fill it in, you know, say you want to go, you started the deposition. What this is going to say is deposition of witness, usually. So you have a certain, you know, function on your machine where you do maybe wit for witness. Well, wit knows that this is going to read in a block file, and it's going to read in deposition of witness. And it's going to come in green because it's a different color and it shows that it's a form field. So it's not going to be the same all the time. So this block file is always going to be, it's always going to have like witness in it, and then this is going to have date. Does that make sense? I already filled it in, that's why it's filled in. But usually when you do it, is y'all's filled in? What does it say? Are y'all even awake?
Yeah,
we're
I'm
just
over
not-
here,
Holy crap.
I didn't go back to HyperKey lesson. That's why. You're in HyperKey lesson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed in the new lesson because I thought we were just kind of reviewing quickly, so I didn't go back.
Well, we
to
were,
the
and
HyperKey one.
we kind of went over a lot more material than
That's
we
okay,
needed
let me
to.
get into where you are.
What does yours say, Slick?
I'm still trying. Are you
HyperKey.
HyperKey?
Yeah.
Okay. I was still in the.
Is anybody where I am?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Oh, when you press E on it,
No, what does that little green box say?
it says Nancy Drew.
Oh, it does? Okay. Well, then maybe it was already filled in. I just changed it to Bobby Drew.
Nancy drew here, yes.
Okay.
Where did you get that?
Nancy. Okay.
June 20th,
Pizza?
2005.
June 20th. And really, it doesn't even matter because if you want to change it, E in HyperKeys takes you to the next form field where you want to fill something in a block file. Make sense? So say you put in Bobby Drew. Well, that wasn't the deposition of Bobby Drew. It was Bobby Andrew. All right. Was it June 21st? No. It was June 11th, 2014.
You said E gets us into that?
And what it does is it keeps going to the next form field where you need to fill in the blank. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So see where it changed it? Bobby Andrew, June 11, 2014. That was the new information that I put in there. Make sense? E is fill in a form field. I'm not going to explain about this too much because I think it's too much in depth for you guys. But what this is you kind of have places where you have the attorneys. You have an appearance page of all the attorneys. Well, in our court, there's about 285 attorneys on our wheel that get filled in. So I have 285 attorneys in my file manager. So whenever I need to go put an attorney's name in, I don't want to have to type in his information every doggone time, which is his name, what firm he works for, his address, bar number, who he represents. I don't need to put all that information in. Who he represents is going to change every now and then, you know, because maybe he represents mom on one case, the next time he represents dad, or the next time he represents children. So that may change. But who he works for, his address and his telephone number are probably going to stay the same. His bar number are all going to stay the same. So, you know, you come here, E, you fill in the attorney, you know, say it was Dale Hill. Okay. When I go to put in Dale Hill, it automatically goes into my file manager, picks out Dale Hill, and puts all of his information in there. So it's pretty neat. I'm not really going to mess with it too much because it's a little bit too much for you guys, but that's what it's kind of explaining right there. So I don't want you guys to think that I was skipping over some stuff.
What most Eclipse users don't realize is that many Windows Explorer functions are available whenever you see a listing of file names. So if I highlight this file's name, I can simply press the delete key to send this file to the recycle bin. I could also highlight a file's name and either right-click or press Shift F10 to open a context menu. You notice I can rename the file from here, delete it, copy it, cut it, perhaps paste it, and there's also the option to send to the desktop to create a shortcut, which will make it easy to reopen a file that won't be transcribed in a single sitting.
That makes sense to you guys? I think we've gone over that already. But, I mean, you know, say you're working on a big case or whatever, and you don't want to have to go into Eclipse every time. press number 1, take you back, whatever. You just want to go right into that job and just start getting after it. You can send that job to your desktop, name it, and then this way it's already an icon on your desktop. When you go into your computer, it's already an icon on there. Click on it, it goes automatically into the job. Does that make sense? That's how you can do that through that little exercise. Did you understand the exercise? Okay. All right. That's all for today. That finishes that one.
Okey dokey. Whatever it is, all disappears. Everything disappears. As if by magic, it said it. It said it, yeah. And then if you do it on that too, take it away. Instead of going with your mouse and.
Go get my computer cleaned out. This one. There you go.
Mine is brand new station. I don't like this thing forever.
I think I need a new battery.
All right,
Bye.
see you later. Got talked into going to midnight rodeo.
Oh, Lord, young people. Yeah, I can imagine I'm going home.
Those days
I don't
are
want to,
over.
but I bailed last week. They're not letting us
Poor little party.
go. You can't do it. I can't do it anymore.
Be careful.
It's just, I think in my 20s and my early 30s, actually up to my mid 30s, and that's after that.
I think I just sort of sold because I could never do it. I was never something like
You know, after a while, you get tired of, you see the same old people over and over. You get burnt out. I
yeah?
did.
Yeah, I did too.